gusto in our minds, and we'll be trying to understand the issues a bit more. I will introduce my panel, and then I will take us through some of the stories before I take their rants for today. Two ladies sitting with me: Akosia Hansen, artistic activist and writer, also creator of the graphics novel series. Akosia, the queen of nighttime radio. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. Good morning.
Morning to you too, and morning to Shamima Muslim, member of the Citizens Coalition and also a development communications expert, the beautiful hijabi Shams. Hello, Shams.
Good morning,
Good morning
Thelma.
to
Good
you as
morning
well.
to you.
I'll come to your rant in a little while because I'm sure there's something that you would want to get off your chest. Before then, let's take a quick run through the stories that are making the headlines in the newspapers. The Daily Graphic focusing a chunk of its front page to that ad hoc committee hearing on the finance minister's censure, and it's the payment of $100.7 million petroleum revenue. PIAC GNPC stick to positions. Yesterday they appeared before the ad hoc committee, so making diverse opinions there. One body saying the payments to the offshore account were legal, the other saying not so much. Other stories on the front page of the Graphic: save local industries, employers, labor to government, exchanging money without license, aids granted, 800,000 bill. And of course, it was Salisu and Semenyo who powered Ghana past Switzerland yesterday, bringing joy to the hearts of many Ghanaians ahead of the World Cup in Qatar starting on Sunday. Wejagbawe, in the midst of plenty yet poor story there, we can see the dam, the water dam, in that photo on the front page of the Daily Graphic, a community constituency watch there. Ghanaian Times focusing on violent extremism in Africa, recording 346 terrorist attacks in the first quarter of 2022. Failure to check executive cost of exploitation of country's national resources. Professor Abochi is being reported to have made that statement. Sensible use of herbal medicines don't cause liver, kidney, heart problems. Dr. Bozia, of course, the censure motion committee also taking a chunk of the Ghanaian Times' time on the front page. GNPC clears finance minister of illegal payment offshore account. So that is for the Ghanaian Times. The Finder newspaper also has a portion dedicated to the hearings. Oforiatta to defend his record, responding to accusations today. Other stories: tension between lotto agents and the NLA heightens, and the UK faces biggest fall in living standards on record. Also a big chunk going to road safety and its crashes. Motorcycles kill 811 in 10 months, representing 41% of 1,985 killed between January and October 2022. So these are some of the stories that made the headlines. The fake pregnant woman who alleged that she had been kidnapped while pregnant, and she was facing the courts for lying to the public and all that. A conviction has come. She's to pay 7,000, managing to escape jail time because she tested pregnant. So the fake pregnant woman is actually now really pregnant, according to the records of the courts. So these are some of the stories that will be engaging our thoughts today at the table. Ladies, Shams and Akosia, certainly the kind of week we've had, something must be on your mind. All that's on my mind is that the Black Stars gave us a good account of themselves, gave us some happy vibes yesterday, and I want to believe that everybody's thought is happy as mine. Should I start with you, Shams?
Well, yes. I have always stayed on the side of being optimistic, especially when our Black Stars, is concerned. No matter the challenges, I think that once they step onto the field, the least we can do is to talk them up and not talk them down. Sometimes the criticisms are so distracting, and there's a way in which you can offer constructive criticism and not, condemn entirely a team that is your only representation. I mean, we have done well. because we are the star of Africa now at the World Cup. The least we can do is to back them up with positive vibes, with prayers, with our support. I know that sometimes they can break our hearts, but at least before the heartbreak, let us, share some positivity.
Heartbreak is
So
part of football.
it's part of football. We all know somebody has to win, somebody has to lose. So I say congratulations to them on a very positive start. We are backing them with our support, with our positivity, with our encouragement. Please do your best. Just ensure you do your best. And the fact that this is an entirely new team that is almost gelling, yet to really find their rhythm, but the way they played yesterday, the calmness with which they did what they had to do. The guy who scored the goal, I heard him say that he followed the instructions of the coach. Work as a team, listen to your coaches, and coaches should also go back to the table, review the matches and see where there were mistakes, and try to, as much as possible, address the challenges that people are sharing and take it in a positive way. But they must protect the team from the negativity when it becomes excessive. Their only goal is to go out there, prove themselves, and make Ghana proud. And we are rooting for them, definitely.
Right. So that, you see, positive ranting at the table. Black Stars all the way. Yesterday we showed up in our jerseys and everybody was like, wow, the World Cup hasn't started. Why are you wearing jerseys? Black Stars are playing. So we started a support campaign. Akusia, what's on your mind?
I mean, this week I've been pretty buried in, entertainment and event organizing. So I don't necessarily have a rant, but even from that side of things, I just want to beat a dead horse. The economic crisis really is, whooping all of us. I mean, having to run events means venues you're booking, prices have gone up. Obviously, fuel prices have gone up. Things are crazy. Food prices have gone up. I mean, we all know this. And I mean, this is a constant problem. And I just want to bring it up because I don't want us to feel normalized in this crisis. It's a very uncomfortable place and we are not supposed to be here. And in spite of this too, Doomsaw is still happening. Water problems and water stops sometimes, And I just heard yesterday that the BOG is actually withdrawing their forex support for some of the goods that are being imported, non-essential goods like rice, vegetable oil, toothpicks. I can't believe we were still importing toothpicks, So this is actually, I feel like this is a step in the right direction, but it's been long overdue getting to a state where we produce our own rice, we produce our own oil, we produce our own toothpicks. It's something that we should have started 50 years ago, not today that we're now reaping the repercussions from this. We should definitely not make this a lip issue where we say, for instance, this whole campaign with the one district, one factory, I used to be very happy with it, because this means that we're actually going to engender people to ourselves to produce our own things. But I mean, it always becomes a political point, it becomes a campaign, and then it dies. And we as citizens of the country are the ones who need to hold people accountable. We need to also, demand these things. We ourselves should, pick up the mantle, produce, make an example for people. So yeah, that's my rant this morning. Basically, like, things are hard. Don't feel like this is normalized. We should just go on. No, December is coming. We know that the Beyond the Return initiative is still going on.
December and GH.
December and GH. Yeah. So there's an influx of foreigners that are coming in this month. It's in about 2-3 weeks already. Ticket prices went up as of June. So I'm wondering how this is actually going to affect the economic space. Prices are definitely going to go up even more now with the influx of pounds. A lot of pounds or dollars are going to be coming in.
Wouldn't that help our city?
I feel like
because we are getting people coming in with foreign exchange, and so we can sort of balance
it, But things become expensive more. I don't know. It does this thing where because they are coming,
because the
prices go up because they can afford. I mean, they now need just less CDs with the dollars or pounds that they're going to bring. They can. The pushes the prices up. So I mean, it's something I've been wary about. I brought it up on the show before. So I'm just watching. I'm just very afraid for what December and the foreign influx is, what it's going to do to us. It's good for us with the tourism industry, but how is this going to play out in the everyday?
I feel you. There was an event planner I was speaking to this week concerning an event we're putting together, and what they are charging for just decor.
Charlie,
I'm like, listen,
yes,
I can't.
Before you go to
venue,
before you go to other logistics.
We must talk about this decor thing.
I told them I can't again.
Yes. but it's also not their fault too. Transportation too.
For decor.
So
event planning. Let's have a sit down. We should have a dedicated program, like perhaps on the breakfast show, on event planning.
Yes.
In these
Ghana,
times.
yes.
And then perhaps the players can give us a better understanding of why the prices are what they should be. I would be happy to walk into their church. My mom would have my head for to walk into a bed and do whatever needs
we
to.
can adopt a minimalist approach to some of these things.
It's a broad conversation. Yes. I'm glad you brought it up, Akosia, because you're an entertainment, minded person. You are thinking about all these things, whilst the rest of us focus on Black Stars and because we've started off on a good note. I just wonder what your thoughts would be on this pregnant women issue, because we are the women. Perhaps we should start from that story on page 26 of the Daily Graphic. The fake pregnancy kidnapped woman convicted is how the story is leading, or has titled the article that is being put there from Takoradi. So the Takoradi-based woman accused of faking a pregnancy and kidnapping Josephine Payne Mensah has been convicted and fined 7,200 Ghana cedis for publication of false news to cause fear and panic. She was saved by a new pregnancy said to have occurred during the trial period, which was confirmed by medical doctors at the Takoradi Hospital. She has 14 days to pay the fine. She was charged with 2 counts of deceit of a public officer, contrary to Section 251B of the Criminal Offences Act, to cause fear and panic, contrary to Section 208, subsection 1 of the Criminal Offences Act. Justice Michael Ampedu, presiding over the Takoradi Circuit Court A, explained before delivering the judgment that Ms. Mensah should have been given a 3-year jail sentence to serve as a deterrent to others. He said Ms. Mensah was found pregnant and as a result of her current state could not be jailed. The law says you can't sentence a pregnant person to prison. That's what Justice Ampedu said. So the court acquitted her on the first charge of deceiving a public officer on the grounds that the law demanded that the complainant of the case should be a police officer, and the allegation of deceit, he explained, was extended to the officer whilst executing an official duty, and the complainant was Michael Simmons, the husband of the accused. So we remember what happened sometime last, I think it was sometime around September, ladies, when this story broke out that a woman had disappeared in Takoradi and she was pregnant, and days later she was found distraught and she was sent to the hospital to get treatment, and then it came out that tests revealed that she actually was not pregnant. And so raising conversations about society and women and aging and fertility and having children and all that. I remember those topics quite clearly. Now we are hearing that she's been saved by an actual real pregnancy. Do you see some clever antics at work here?
Well, indeed, this story, it caused a lot of fear and panic when it broke, and it raised a lot of issues that we needed to really speak about as society, because what would really push a woman to go to that extent of faking a pregnancy over a 9-month period, the moments where she pretended to be going for antenatal care, and to then come to the realization that the end is here and there's no baby going to come. So what was she hoping to do? Steal a baby at the end of the day, and those plans didn't materialize. And then it was such an elaborate drama that raised too many issues, like I said. And I think the bit you mentioned, and the society that puts a lot of pressure on women to reproduce and have children, especially when they are married within a certain time, sometimes not even up to 6 months, and we start putting pressure on them when we don't, I beg your pardon, we don't know what fertility challenges couples may be going through, and that emphasis must really be looked at, and we must become more sensitive and empathetic couples, because there are fertility issues, and sometimes there may not be any issue at all, because now she's pregnant, which means, has she been allowed her own way? She could have actually been pregnant. So why did she have to go through that kind of, elaborate story? I think we'll really never know truly the motivations and the reasons behind. But at the end of the day, I think the court has taken a humane decision. If she's truly pregnant, like you're saying, if it was not a strategy by the lawyer to get her to truly become pregnant, so it will force the hand of the court to, temper justice with mercy. So, well, I think this must be a lesson. I don't know where she's going to raise the money from, but I'm sure she will mobilize the funds and pay up.
Days.
But there are key lessons for us to learn as women ourselves, take charge of our lives and our body and our agency, and not to also allow societal pressures to push us to the brink of sometimes illegality and criminality, which at the end of the day, only you would have been languishing in the cells, and not those that pressurized you to prove that you're truly a woman by carrying a pregnancy, right, and all that.
Akosia.
I mean, I 100% agree with you. The story actually was confounding, bewildering, and what she said, an elaborate drama, Till now, I'm still trying to grasp, did this really happen? It's just like some story someone made up, So there was something Shamima said in the makeup room about it probably being a mental health issue because of how bewildering it is. I really don't understand why someone will go through that, that process and this whole elaborate scheme to deceive. So yeah, I don't know what to say about it. I'm glad that humane judgment, at least they've tampered mercy. They put mercy in
because of an actual pregnancy.
Because of an actual pregnancy. I don't know what's going through her head. I don't know the context of the story that she's come from. But then definitely Shamima is right about the societal pressure on women. I see it as communal abuse. Without people recognizing how they're abusive. It can be little things like how a mother pressurizes their daughter when just because they reach the age of 35 or 40, or how your colleagues at work do not respect you because you're not married or you do not have children. How society basically reduces your humanity because of what they think your womb should be doing or not. And that is insidious violence, insidious abuse. And sometimes when the person is driven to do certain things, we will be there and be like, why this? But it's actually all of us in the community that have normalized that kind of thinking, that have normalized that kind of pressure, which forces this. So yes, I admonish all of us, to be the difference, be kind. Women are whole human beings in their own right. People have fertility issues, people don't. People may choose to have children, and they also may choose not to, but we are all creative actors, So yeah, let's be kinder people. Let's be a kinder society.
I don't want to get into what I have heard within work circles about, but if you don't have children, then what do you spend your money on?
That is part of those violent comments.
But why are you not doing this or that? And the conversation about you don't need to intrude into somebody's life, and if you don't have anything nice to say, zip it. Facts. I can't emphasize that enough. Facts. And I want to leave the rant here because otherwise I would rant and rant and rant.
But what it means is that we need a lot of training, because sometimes people don't know better.
People know ignorance is not an excuse.
But if there's a gap, we need to fill the gap with the right information. Like I was saying, a lot of newsrooms don't hold these things. In other places, these are regular training and exposures that staff are made aware of, so that if upon, despite being taught and exposed to these breaches, you still find yourself in breach, then the system and the institution is supposed to take you on. Do you see it? But it's a laissez-faire attitude in many of our organizations, and everything goes. Real organizational culture and practices and good governance practices are not being used within our organizational systems, and the human resource department must look at all of these things. You must train, retrain, constantly train staff to be aware of all the things that create a toxic work environment and make people unhappy and affects, the commitment of staff within the space.
The 3 papers I have before me are all dedicating time to happenings in Parliament concerning the censure motion against the finance minister. This morning at 10 a.m., he's expected to actually mount the witness stand to also answer questions on his own. I wonder, ladies, yesterday GNPC and PIAC were before the committee, and they took very divergent stance when it came to payment of Ghana's oil revenue into a certain offshore account. PIAC insists that it is contrary to the law, and GNPC by law is not mandated to have a subsidiary account where petroleum revenues of the country are paid into. GNPC maintains that PIAC is wrong, and they have every right within their operations as a commercial entity to do just that. You see, there's a lot of technicalities involved, and because I'm not a technical person, I wouldn't want to, say anything that will be taken out of context. But what do all these conversations mean for us, and what does it mean for where we are going? The finance minister is expected to come today, and already the Ghanaian Times is saying he has been exonerated. If you read the story on page 15 of the Ghanaian Times, it says the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation has exonerated the Minister for Finance, Ken Ofori-Atta, of any wrongdoing in the payment of 100.7 million into an offshore account in relation to petroleum funds from Jubilee Oil Holdings, JOHL, a subsidiary of the corporation. So GNPC says he hasn't done anything wrong. PIAC says, well, it's against the dictates of Article 176, I believe, and they should not have done that. So the ordinary Ghanaian is sitting. So now what? What do we think about this?
Well, do you want to go? No, so now what is where I am at? You talk. So, I mean, I watched parts of the... was it on 2 days ago? Because
yesterday as well.
And yesterday when the PIAC and GNPC came. As you said, there are a lot of factual issues that we are presently not privy to. Even the committee had to consistently ask people to stick to the facts of the matters and not proffer their personal opinions. One of the key things that comes up with this particular scenario is accountability of public institutions and the gaps that exist within those public institutions. I mean, it was at the hearing that the co-chair, Katie Hammond, was telling the vice chair of PIAC that does he know that some amounts of money have since been paid after their report. He says, well, we have written to these institutions. As at the time of preparing these reports, this is the information we had. So if you are now telling me that some subsequent payments have been made, we need to go and check before then we would wait till we receive that communication from the particular institution and we'll update our records. There is so much I don't know whether to call it lethargy, but there's slowness in the public system. It's amazing. And this affects, proper advocacy, because civil society can only advocate on matters that are before it in terms of reports and facts. Okay, so when these things delay, then you can't catch the corruption until after it happens, because it's always after the fact that know that there's been some, indiscretions, or there's been some failures, or there's been some mistakes. I mean, the finance minister finds himself in a very difficult situation at this time, and sometimes I feel for him, because for what reason would somebody hold on when all around him seems to be collapsing, and that he still holds on means that maybe there's really something major at stake, and maybe he believes strongly that he has done no wrong, and so he's confident to stand before the people of Ghana and respond to the questions that people are asking. And we will be waiting to hear those, those things. Beyond this particular issue that is before the subcommittee, there are other broad issues, and still the majority side is still insisting that they will do business with the finance minister. And when we also the 80 MPs
who have been told by the party not to take part in any of the proceedings relating to the motion filed by the minority. Not this particular motion.
You know that they also are still calling for the resignation of the finance minister. They are just heeding to the president's intervention
to
for them to hold on. But as at yesterday, when you heard members of the majority side, they still insist that their position holds, that they will not continue to work with the finance minister. So it's like there's now the National Council of the NPP has come into the fray to try to resolve matters. So there seems to be some level of chaos, some level of mistrust, and some level of no confidence in the person of the finance minister. So the question is, as you see, why is he still holding on and going through all this? When I saw the video of him, perhaps tired and nodding off, and it becoming a viral video. I mean, if he was my father or my relative, I would feel so inherently sad about what he seems to be putting himself through. So and then we saw who his lawyer was, and then that reinforced this whole nation that no, there's something at stake. This is really family and friends, and at this point I can't even blame him, because who else can he trust from within his community?
Those who are making the allegation about family and friends, and the president has said this before, that if you have any evidence, bring it to me, and based on that we can have a conversation about who should be blamed or not, about the supposed all these issues that have come up against the conflict of interest and all that, and the calls for the finance minister to be removed, and the president saying, listen, I'm listening, I'm hearing you, but where's the evidence of the alleged wrongdoing you are bringing against the finance? The minority is claiming that the finance minister made the payments illegally to the offshore accounts in flagrant disregard for the Petroleum Revenue Act, and their claim is anchored on a report by the PIAC again in 2021 that the Ministry of Finance paid the amount into the offshore account illegally. PIAC says it has done no wrong, and they've continued to defend why the GNPC said they've done no wrong, and they continue to defend why they've done it to that ad hoc committee. So it's a lot of information, a lot of technicalities involved, and we'll try and get someone who can speak to us, perhaps break it all down for us, so we are better able to understand and appreciate the issues that the finance minister will be speaking to at 10 a.m. when he faces the ad hoc committee in Parliament today. Akusa, I wonder what you would have to say. What are your expectations ahead of Ken Ofori-Attah's appearance before the committee this morning?
I hope for accountability. I hope for answers to all our questions. I'm coming to this as a lay person, an ordinary citizen, and all we hear, as you're saying, is technicalities, and it just sounds like there's confusion around how our public funds are being spent, and seeing we from the grounds and seeing how things are hard now, hearing money's been sent to offshore accounts, it's just like, what?
Because like, offshore accounts, you hear it and immediately you think about tax havens and these and countries where the laws on taxes are perhaps not as strict. And so you're hearing these things, and the ordinary mind is asking, my ordinary journalistic mind is asking me, so what's Ghana's money doing in an offshore account? Shouldn't we, if it's in dollars, 100 something of
dollars,
don't we need money here? Like, why? What's Bank of Ghana? So these are questions that I have as a Ghanaian about why, perhaps because I don't understand the technicalities, and I'm open to learn. So we'll try and get someone who can answer some of these questions for us. But the fact remains that there is a lot of gray area in people's minds where these situations are concerned, and we'll try and get some, maybe an energy analyst, a financial analyst who can explain the technicalities of these issues to us a bit more clearly. Fact remains that the finance minister still has a lot of questions to answer when he appears before the 8-member ad hoc committee this morning, Parliament House, to respond to all these allegations about conflict of interest, and these ones that the Ghanaian Times is claiming, the exoneration by the GNPC for the alleged illegal payment of monies into an offshore account. So there's many conversations that we are looking forward to today, but the financial woes of the country continues, and it appears that it's an unending fight. Exchanging money without license has put people before the court, and they are being asked to pay 800,000 Ghana cedis as bail. The story is on page 26 of the Daily Graphic, and I'll read a bit of it. 8 persons have been put before an Accra circuit for exchanging money without license, and their names have been put there. They've been granted bail in the sum of 100,000 with 2 sureties, and the court ordered that the 2 sureties be justified with any property valued at 100,000 Ghana cedis. The facts of the case: Police Inspector Isaac Babayi told the court between November 9 and 10, 2022, a team of police officers and the Bank of Ghana embarked on an exercise to clamp down on illegal forex trade at Tudu, Accra Central Business District. The prosecution said the suspects were arrested when investigations revealed that they were engaged in the trade without a license, and added that a search on them revealed thousands of cedis and foreign currencies such as Naira and the United States dollars. The prosecution said they managed to flee the scene and that efforts were being made to get them to face the law. So there's more details there on page 26 of the Daily Graphic. So this is the other leg of the campaign, that as we try to bring our city to an appreciable place against its major international trading partners, we need to look at what we are doing at home, which is exacerbating the problem as well. And the understanding is that these black market operators are contributing to that. So 8 of them are standing trial now. Will it make things any better for the attempts to make the city perform better against the other trading partners, do you think, Akusi?
I believe that is a consequence of the larger problem. So when there is when the exchange rates go high that way, that is what then causes the rise in these black markets for illegally. You know, when things become even more expensive on the main market, then the black markets increase. So if we want that to stop, the major problem with managing that structural situation, the inflation, all the technicalities that cause, you know, an increase in the exchange rates, that needs to be dealt with. These are just the consequences of, obviously we definitely have to deal with it as well, but then the black market actually increases when the exchange rates go high. You know, that's why what happens is there's more of an even demand for the black market because of how high it is in the major side. So that's how I think it plays out. What do you think, though?
I think that, you see, the black market operators are a small number. In the larger space of things, yes. Who is to blame for the depreciation of the city?
Exactly.
So it's a lot. Yes, clamping down on the illegality, but how much will it scale back for us is the question that I would ask. So what do you think, Shams?
Right. I mean, before I make a comment on the black market, I wanted to raise some issue with regarding the debates that we'll be hearing today at the committee level. There was one question that came up strongly yesterday. The GNPC representative was trying to explain that an offshore account didn't necessarily have to be offshore geographically, but he fell short of telling us where the offshore account,
so we don't know what
100 or so million is, whether it's here or it's outside of the jurisdiction. But the energy experts, when I heard one of them, insisted that the Petroleum Holding Fund is there for a purpose, and all revenues accruing from Ghana's petroleum dealings are supposed to go into the Petroleum Holding Fund. So, question to ask is, why did you then decide to put these resources in an offshore account when you could have well put it within the Petroleum Holding Fund and still expend it in justifiable ways? The second question I would probably want to have answered is, so where is the 100 or so million? Please, is there evidence of this amount of money sitting in any account, whether offshore or any other place? I think that is a question that requires an answer to. With the operations of the black market, in economies like ours, sometimes it is even these operations that help the situation. You know, what could become a problem is actually what intervenes to stop a certain further deterioration. Because if the system can, the traditional banking system can afford the dollar needs of all traders and everybody at reasonable rates, why would there be a proliferation of black market operations? You know, if there's no demand, there's no supply.
Exactly.
So if you yourself come up with your regulations, enforce those regulations. In the meantime, ensure that citizens in need of dollars get access to the dollars that they require from the regular banking institutions.
How hard would it be
to
legalize the operations of these black market operators? Would it be very different from what they are doing already?
Well, there are forex bureaus, and they are supposed to be operating under licensing. The precariousness of how the black market operates, I'm not sure how you can necessarily regulate who is standing by the roadside in Nima when you're going. He flags you down and he, you know, changes your money for you. The fact is, ensure that we strengthen our banking system so that people in need of money are able to go for their money. As we speak now, there are businesses with huge dollar accounts who can't access the quantities of money that they require to bring in their products. And the banks will indirectly tell you that, well, if you can bring the dollar and put in your account, we will transfer your money for you. Whereas they have money sitting in that banking account because the money is not there. And they can't meet these, you know, demands from people who have these accounts. So had there not been these black market operations, just look at how, you know, serious the situation would have been. I'm not saying that we should allow on
the unbridled,
you know, operation of black markets. They can actually skew the system, but ensure that you yourself put your house in order to make the patronizing of black markets untenable.
Okay, we have a PIAC member on our telephone lines, and he's going to help us understand PIAC's position from yesterday a bit more. Mr. Eric, therefore, good morning. Thank you for joining us. Good morning, sir.
Fine morning.
Thank you for making the time. We were having a conversation earlier about what happened in front of the committee yesterday concerning PIAC's position. Help us understand your insistence, for example, that this offshore account is not legal.
Well, it is not necessarily the account which is not legal, but the payment of petroleum revenue that came out of operations in our petroleum fields in Ghana into an offshore account instead of the petroleum holding fund, which has been designated to receive all petroleum revenue through direct or indirect sources. Now, our position is that GNPC is a partner in the Jubilee field, and Anadaco is also a partner in the Jubilee field through the Jubilee Oil Holding Limited. Anadaco indicated that he wanted to leave Ghana and was willing to sell 7% of his share through JOHL. He decided to acquire those shares through preemptive rights. And it did. Our position is very simple. GNPC as a partner in the Jubilee field pays all its revenues to the Petroleum Holding Fund. So if you have acquired the interest of another partner in the field, it technically only goes to increase your interest in the field. And there is no basis why you should separate revenues, pay GNPC's portion into JOHL, into the Petroleum Holding Fund, and then revenues attributable to JOHL, you pay into an account offshore. We find that to be irregular, and GNPC would do well to retreat the funds Petroleum Holding Fund.
The GNPC insisted that they've done no wrong, and they say that perhaps you're not understanding what they do, and that as a corporate entity which is also running a profitable business, they do have some room to make some of these calls, provided that they keep paying what is due to the ministry. So there's a quote here that says the minister is not responsible for revenues. We have to, at the end of the day, submit our financials to the ministry, pay our taxes to the Ghana Revenue Authority. And in 2021, JOHL paid 17 million to GRA as taxes. On the basis of that, do you still maintain that some impropriety is at play here? And what should have been the expected outcome? There's also the question of where is the money in actual fact? Is it in this country? Is it not in this country? Which country is it in? And how can we find that out? That information out?
Well, let me take it from the end of your question. We don't know where the funds are. So long as they have not been lodged into the Petroleum Holding Fund, GNPC has to answer to the citizens of Ghana as to where the funds are. You see, GNPC is trying to defend its position in the fact that it acquired a company that was registered outside Ghana, or let me say in the Cayman Islands. And because it is a company, it had the right to operate as a separate entity and pay dividends to its shareholders. Now, GNPC's operations are funded primarily from resources from the government of Ghana through its carried and participating interest portion of the petroleum revenue that accrue to the petroleum holding fund. Now, if GNPC has acquired an interest in a field that it is already operating in, it only goes to increase its stake in the field. And therefore, all revenues accruing to GNPC from operations in that field must go to the Petroleum Holding Fund. Whether the company was registered outside Ghana or not, you don't split your revenues, keep some outside Ghana, and pay some into the Petroleum Holding Fund. That is the irregularity. You are operating in one field. You have acquired an interest of a partner in that field. So your interest in that field has increased. So when revenues accrue from the operations in that field, you don't separate them. Take some outside the country, keep some in the country, and then we don't have control of what you do with what is outside the country. There's a law, Act 815 as amended 893, which supersedes the law that set up GNPC. We didn't have the Petroleum Revenue Management Act when GNPC was being incorporated or formed. Now we have. So the law existing today supersedes what was before. And now we have strict guidelines. You see, the serious thing about what GNPC has done is that under the Petroleum Revenue Management Act, the revenues accruing into the Petroleum Holding Fund are distributed in a certain way. Part of the money goes to GNPC, part of it goes to the annual budget funding amount, part of it goes to the District Assembly Common Fund, part of it goes to the Ghana Stabilization Fund, part of it goes to the Ghana Heritage Fund. These are the distributions that the law has designated. Once you take the outside Ghana, and we don't have control of those revenues, all these allocations, all these funds that are supposed to receive part of the petroleum revenues are denied those revenues.
Mr. Therefore, so do you think the finance minister, contrary to some reports in media circles, still has a question to answer about this particular offshore account? Because some reports are saying he does not need to answer specifically these questions because they've been laid to rest by the appearance of PIAC and GNPC before the committee yesterday.
I think the finance minister still has questions to answer because he technically is the manager of Ghana's petroleum revenues. So if he allows GNPC to take part of Ghana's petroleum revenues outside the jurisdiction and then manages it or uses it as it wishes, I don't think that can be absolved of the responsibility. He is in charge of managing the revenue. So he is the one who can order GNPC to say, bring the money back into the petroleum holding fund. Whatever liabilities or responsibilities you have in your operations with GOHL or wherever you got money from to acquire GOHL, when you get your portion of the distribution of the fund in the petroleum holding fund, you can use it to do whatever you want to do. But to take the whole lot of money from a listing of GOHL and go and put it in GOHL's account outside Ghana when you have already acquired that interest, it's irregular.
Mr. Therefore, Ghanaians will ask the question, so how do we find out where the money is? Because you've said that you don't know, as PIAC, you don't know where the money is. Who knows, and who should we ask that question to? I'll give my panel members also an opportunity to ask you some questions before we let go of you. But how do we find out where the money is?
I think you must direct that to GNPC. Since they acquired the GOHL interest, and when it was time to list for GOHL listed and paid the money offshore. GNPC should be able to tell us, because GNPC is 100% owner of GOHL.
Ladies, Shamima Muslim is here with me and Akosia Hansen as well. Perhaps they will also have some questions for you, Mr. Therefore, if you would bear with me for a minute. Shams?
I mean, he's addressed the issues that came up yesterday. This is their position, so it is up to GNPC and the ministry to explain to the satisfaction of Ghanaians where the money is and why they decided to exercise a discretion outside of the intendment of the act. Right. And the intendment being that revenues from Ghana's petroleum industry should be in the petroleum holding fund, as I said earlier. So really the germane question is, where is the money? This is really what, and where is the money geographically? I think that's a question which Mr. Therefore is telling us we need to put to the GNPC.
Akosia, I wonder if you have any questions.
Yeah, I have a comment instead of a question, so we can sign out with him first.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So, Mr. Therefore, thank you so much for making time to join us. If there's any extra information you'd like to share with us before you go, would hear it.
Well, I think we are all pursuing the interests of Ghana, and you know the financial situations that we are in at the moment. Our budget is constrained. Some of the money that should have accrued to the Petroleum Holding Fund, which should have been put aside in our heritage fund for future generations, is not available now because of what GNPC has done. We are informed that GNPC is taking steps to transfer the interest of GOHL to a local entity, Exploco, or whether they are setting up a company locally. That in itself is evidence that something has gone wrong and they are trying to remedy it. So for me, the best thing for them to do is to bring the money back, or if they have disbursed it, they should come and account to the citizens of Ghana how that money has been disbursed. GOHL was set up as a special purpose vehicle, and therefore it is not our expectation that it will happen and then at the end of the day come up with profit or losses, and then if there are profits, before Ghana will benefit from dividends, and if there are losses, then we don't get anything at all from the oil that has been taken out. So that is the only thing I would say. That GNPC, yes, maybe it was a misstep, but remedy the situation by bringing the resources back into the Petroleum Holding Fund. Or if you have disbursed the fund, then come and account to the citizens of Ghana as to how the money was spent, and then don't repeat this. Please make sure that all revenue, according to the PRMA at 815, should first be paid into the Petroleum Holding Fund.
Thank you so much for making the time to explain these things to us from the perspective of PIAC. Mr. Eric, therefore, is a PIAC member. Yesterday, they appeared to testify before the committee set up by Parliament to look into the issue about the vote of censure against the finance minister. Key question about some monies paid into offshore accounts by the GNPC, which PIAC raised concerns were an irregularity and perhaps an illegality. GNPC has defended their position and say that contrary to what PIAC is saying, they have done what they did what they did in a legal manner, and there's no cause for alarm. The key question remains, where is the money? What country is the money in? And those questions will put to GNPC when we have the opportunity. We are opening the table. We are offering 2 chairs, 3 chairs to GNPC. Come speak to us about these issues and clarify for us where the money is. $100.7 million is what we are talking about here. And ladies, they can do so much for us. It has it within its grasp to use.
And Mr. Defo alluded to it, because with the Petroleum Revenue Management Act 2015 Act 893 set up 4 main funds, including the Petroleum Holding Fund, but there's also the Revenue Fund, and I think there's a Ghana Wealth Fund as well, and the Stabilization Fund. And the question is, I'm so worried that if we went to scrutinize all these other funds, we may be shocked at what we will not find.
We don't want to have any shocks.
But this is what is happening. Sometimes leaders of state institutions also act and operate as if they own the corporations and not really working in the public interest. There's so much that we lose through these state agencies, and the reports from SIGA shows that there are leakages in these state institutions, and those that lead, sometimes they take excessive powers, and we really need to have the accountability institutions keep an eye on some of these matters.
Okay, so I'm trying to see if we can get a couple of comments, and then we can continue with the discussion. People are sending the answers to our cheesy question to the screen. It's the wrong platform to do that. You know the rules already. Follow GTV Ghana on our social media handles. We are on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, and we put the post there, the question, the cheesy quiz, we put it there as a post. You need to like that post as well, and then leave your answer as a comment under that post. That's how you win cheesy pizza. Okay, so if you send it to our WhatsApp number 0555561034, we'll take your comment as a comment and add it to the discussions we are having, but you win any pizza. So that's how you win. Let's see if there are some questions. Good morning, Thelma. Keep the good work. Indeed, our women panelists are empowered. Haja Shamima, you inspire me so much, and you look lovely in your hijab. Shamima Muslim, you look good in your hijab. I hope you will introduce it to Muslim women in politics and in media. Al-Haji Dawda, Medina Estate. My different kind of question to the panel about the Committee of 8 in Parliament. Can the Finance Minister process of oil money to fund free senior high school fees? Not quite sure what you're asking there, Al-Haji. If you could just say that one more time so that I understand particularly what you're doing. Where's the money? We are also asking the same question. We'll ask it to GNPC. If we do find some answers to that, we'll let you know. So I think that we still have a few more minutes, and I don't know, Akusha, you said when we were talking to Mr. Defo that you had a comment about his submission. So perhaps we'll take the comment and we'll look at other stories if there is time. What's your comment about what he told us?
I wanted to ask him. He mentioned that the GNPC acquired a company in the Cayman Islands. And I wanted to know, and I just basically was asking in my head, why was there the need to do this? What regulations were they escaping so that they can have independence or freedom to do what? When it comes to regulating and running our public funds, these type of licenses should not be allowed. I mean, as I said, as I keep saying, I'm coming to this as an ordinary citizen, and when you hear things like this is our public funds, $107 million, and he actually outlined, the 5, he said by law, about 5 spaces where these funds go to, that come back to us, the district assemblies, which goes back into the communities. All of these things, this is how it trickles down to us. And then when you hear the other side, it said, oh, it's legal for them to do. a layman, just to hear, even that you're saying is legal, is like money that could have gone this way to come this way to me. It's disheartening, it's worrying, and honestly this is what we hear in every government, it's like when does the interest of the Ghanaian, when is this centered? When is this centered in the Ghanaian agenda? Because we are the ones waking up every day. We are the ones who, you have to go and take that trotro that has now increased from 5 to 7 cities. We are the ones who, there's not enough gutter ways, so therefore when it floods, all of these happen. And these are the things that trickle down to us. So I feel like we have to admonish ourselves. Anyone who is elected for public office should be someone of high integrity. How you operate in a private company. If maybe you used to run yourself and run things the way you used to run in a private company, once you take a public role, certain things should be shed, because what needs to happen now is not you. You no longer center yourself. You no longer center your personal resources. You're actually the manager, the servant of the people. You're supposed to center the people's heart. So this is what just really just took my heart, that these funds go to these 5 different places by law, and this is how it trickles down to me as an ordinary citizen. So if I hear, we're legal, it was legal for us to do this, and hear all these technicalities, it just sounds like a caveat we are creating for ourselves, yet again not putting the Ghanaian in the Ghanaian agenda. So who is Ghana for? Who is Ghana really for?
Ghana is for all Ghanaians, and we'll continue to have hope and play our own part and to make things the way they should be. And we hope that everybody else plays their own part as well. Shams, I know that you have something to add to this topic again.
Briefly.
But, okay, go on.
Do you want to?
Go on then. I want to reference this, the fact that we want money to do other things, to link it to the minorities' call for the national health insurance money to be released, because otherwise we may get back to a system where some payments are demanded for health. But I'll take your submission on
payments are already being demanded. It's almost back to cash and carry. As you know, it's the health insurance is almost on its knees, as it is with even the district assemblies. Their allocations haven't come in several months. So we indeed are in a crisis situation, and if nothing happens within the shortest possible time, things will grind to a halt. We don't want to get there, hopefully. The thing I wanted to say about the citizens, yesterday we were on a Twitter space speaking about CDD is preparing for its Krontini Akwemu lectures, and this year the focus is on reclaiming Africa's shrinking civic space. And this is because the civic space provide a third layer of accountability in most democracies. The reason why our democratic gains are eroding is because of the shrinking space, where governments are becoming increasingly autocratic. They are clamping down on media rights. They are clamping down on civic society and civil society actors. They are rubbishing their advocacies and calling them names. And if we citizens don't realize that this is the interface we have, the civic space is the interface we have between us as citizens and families and the state. And the state sometimes is not, the state sometimes isn't as a forward-looking as it should in terms of delivering the social goods for the citizens. So you need this space to be vibrant. You need this space to be informed. You need this space to be educated. You need this space to be organized, to advocate, to demand that the right things are done. Because when you give somebody power, you have empowered them to do with your collective resources as they may. So it is the laws, it is the institutions, and it is the vigilance of the citizen that will determine how much of the national resource they get.
It's quite interesting that you make that point, because on page 17 of the Ghanaian Times, Professor Abuchi is making a rather similar claim here, and he said that the failure to check the executive is the cause of exploitation of the country's natural resources. And it's the Dean of the School of Law at the University of Professional Studies, Accra, UPSA, Professor Ernest Kofi Abuchi, who is attributing the exploitation of the country's resources to the failure by Parliament to check the executive in the granting of exploitation rights. So beyond just, the conversations in the civic space about holding government accountable, also institutions that have been put in place by the Constitution who are required to do these checks and balances on behalf of the people of Ghana. 30.8 million people cannot all gather at Independence Square and yell at one president to effect a change. That's why 275 constituencies, soon to be 276, have been elected into a body so that the voices of the people can be heard on national issues. Are those voices being heard? And is it getting us what we want from the people we've put in power to serve us? That would be my question. So it's an interesting story on page 16 of the Ghanaian Times. Failure to check the executive is the cause of exploitation of the country's natural resource. If we want to get into the conversation about Galamsey again right now, we wouldn't leave here. But that story also in the Ghanaian Times page 4, the minority asking government to release the levy to the NHIA fund. The story says minority in parliament has asked government to release all national health insurance levy accrued to the National Health Insurance Fund without delay. The caucus claimed that failure of the Ministry of Finance to release the funds has led to some health facilities demanding patients make upfront payments for medical consumables and services due to delays in the payment by the National Health Insurance. Addressing the press in Parliament on Tuesday on the threat of Private Health Facilities Association of Ghana, the ranking member of the Health Committee, Kwabena Menta Akanda, said the delays in the release could lead to preventable deaths in the country. More on this story on page 4 of the Ghanaian Times. So Shamima says it's happening.
What is working?
It's a question. What is working?
We are alive, and where there is life,
there is hope.
There is hope. That's what I would say.
So we go chop hope.
One day.
Hope will heal us.
One day.
Hope will preventable deaths. I mean, let us do the right thing by this state. Citizens need to know that there is so much money. And like you're saying, NCCE they'll also tell you how much under-resourced they are.
Yep.
Okay, which is again why the call must come to all civic actors within the civic space, faith-based organizations, community-based organizations, grassroots organizations, individual citizens must know just how rich this country is and must know and be interested in reading reports of the sheer amount. Oh, yes. We are rich. Even the president says that we sit on the richest continent. And so it's a travesty that we continue to be impoverished. If you sit on the richest continent and you are impoverished, whose fault is it? It's obviously a few people who are benefiting from our collective resources. And we must read these reports to know just how much money is being wasted in this country so we can ignite the necessary anger to make the necessary, agonizing and ensure that things change, because things will not change if we allow people to do us with our resources as they please.
Same finance minister again, Ken Ofori-Atta, who is being mentioned here. The finance ministry should release the money.
Where is the money
for the? That's what I'm about to ask.
They can't have the money, but they have money to rent private jets for these are the things that anger citizens. If we are in a time of crisis, we must see we must see it reflect in all members of government, in their expenditure patterns, in their lifestyle patterns, because you cannot be looking so dapper and yet say that times are hard. Do you see it? When it's the state taking care of you, we must see that the state being unable to take care of the basic needs of the majority of citizens is equally unable to take care of you. We must see it. And it should not be a pretense. People should go to bed very scared and anxious, and they should be staying up awake to figure out solutions to take us from the doldrums that we currently find ourselves in. It's not good enough.
Yeah. So health insurance in very, dire waters here, according to the minority, saying that if the funds are not released, and the private facilities themselves have said that, listen, we don't know how much longer we can keep doing this if some monies don't show up. And again, it's the finance ministry that's been called upon to release the money. Where's the money?
That's the question. Where's the money? And when these things happen, you hit, for instance, these major key points of people's everyday lives. Now our health insurance, which is everything. And if people cannot, freely be able to buy the drugs that they need, if their insurance does not work, you're causing all sorts of mayhem in people's private lives. Then even more increase in black markets, increase in dangerous drugs that are sold for cheap prices, increase in all these types of things, and also protections for people who need this insurance. I just want to go off a bit on what you were talking about earlier about us sitting on the richest country, yet richest resources, natural resources, yet we're impoverished. This, therefore, is a symptom of poor leadership. A symptom of leadership that does not, solve problem. That doesn't center the.
If a market woman,
it's leadership. If
has to sell a product for 1 cedi and decides to sell it for 10 cedis, how did Nanado?
No, it's deeper than that. It comes back to our natural resources. It comes back to what the systems we put in place for us to produce our own things. It comes back to how much do we import, how much do we export, how do we manage our systems or our natural resources, and how we expend them and make money for ourselves. And whenever I think about this, I also see calls for. There was one time our president called for reparations for slavery. Mm-hmm. There's also the conversation on the climate change funds, that should come to African countries. Mm-hmm. Very necessary calls. But then when these funds come in, then you wonder, where would the funds go, for instance, with the climate change? When these funds come, where would it go? Would they be spent on what needs? Exactly. Would it come to us? And these are millions of dollars. These are millions of dollars that would actually solve problems. Climate change is an issue. When we get these reparations, where would it come to? It then comes back to the leadership, because it's not the everyday citizen who goes to the UN and take the cash. It's the leadership that we've created that will take it, and it's the leadership that will then have to have the power and the broadness of mind to know how to allocate such that every one of us is well taken care of, and we are giving our natural rights and needs. Do you get what I'm saying? So it always comes back to our leadership. It comes back to anyone in that position has to be someone of high integrity. You cannot, once you take that position, you cannot see yourself as Akosi or Shamima anymore. You are Ghana. You can't sleep if people cannot sleep. You can't be able to drive in a convoy with police convoy in front of you, and you pass in front of us. As all of us are sitting in this hot traffic, we can't turn on the AC. We are stuck in our churches. We are stuck in, all of this, and you are just passing by. You can't. You, most of all, should be in the same situation we are in. It comes back to the leadership. I wish I had the chance to go direct and go and get the climate change funds and do the things I can do, but I can't. It always comes back to the leadership of the country.
And write a proposal.
The NGOs. So that's a problem. Them clamping down on that, clamping down on civic tax. Oh my goodness. What they're even doing with accounts, bank accounts. It's a lot of things.
Ladies, so talking about, the role that individual Ghanaians can play, the agric minister, who is also at that climate change summit, has created a market, and is the Planting for Food and Jobs market that has now reached the Tudu area in the Central Business District, where food items are brought from the hinterland to a certain premises. It started at the Ministry of Agric and now at Tudu, and they are sold for very, very relatively cheaper prices than what we see on the market. Some have trooped to some of these centers to buy as much as they can, even though we are told that there's a certain kind of system which would ensure that you can't buy too much, so that you can go and maybe sell it off or something. Is that something that we see as a commendable move? Because now the market women know that if your planting is 45, for 20 cities.
What I would say, I would say is I want to see the sustainability of it, right? We are not looking at the problem is not just in Accra, it's throughout the country, right? We said it started at the Ministry of Agric and now it's moved to Tudu. These are two places. How are we going to mainstream this for the whole of Ghana? These things, when you have it on this small scale, leave that for small organizations to do. But when we are talking about government running these things, at least the Ministry of Agric running this, I see that as government, right? It should be a large scale thing. It shouldn't be small projects, large scale. And how is this sustainable for all Ghanaians? Not just a show for a while and then it stops. Oh, we did this, we created a prototype, and yeah, we did this for a while and that's it. How are you mainstreaming this solution across the country, and not just in Accra, not just at the Ministry of Agric, not just at Tudu?
We are told that there is a plan to make this into a national exercise. So perhaps to open around the country, perhaps at district offices, to be announced by the.
You see, when there's an emergency situation, you can come up with an emergency intervention to perhaps ease pressures and tensions and anxieties. But that is only and can only be an emergency situation. We don't want the Agric Ministry opening markets across the country, because when they come back with the costs of that deployment, you would regret that you benefited from that
you
program.
bought the plantain for 20
yes,
cedis.
I mean, think back at the COVID period and the lockdown period. We are still reeling from the effects of the whopping amounts where we are told we had to expend to provide free food
to protect lives.
to people. So I'm saying that anytime into the fray of in the way that is entering into, it comes as an added and extra cost to the taxpayer. And we must listen to organizations like GAO. So this can only be a temporary measure. We should in no way be encouraging government, because there's a whole value chain between the farm gate and the markets. Those who aggregate the products, they have to bring the products from the farm markets to the city centers and bring to the town, and then again organize transport to the markets for retailers to also come and buy. There's an entire value chain if you look at it. So who is picking up the tab? Who is picking up the cost of transporting these things from the area? The reasons why prices become high is because of the transport cost. So what we want government to be doing is to be resolving the matter of fuel prices, is to be resolving the infrastructural deficit, the bad road networks, so that vehicles, because there are already haulage companies who are hauling products. The reasons why these products are high is because of the transportation cost and the cost of farm inputs. Fertilizer prices went up this last farming season. There was a lot of cry on the side of farmers. There were floods that will affect outputs at the end of the day. So please, these are emergency interventions. They come at an unsustainable extra cost, and we don't want the Agric Minister to be doing this public display. We welcome the ease it will give to some families in the interim, but please do not lose sight of the most fundamental important things to ensure that agriculture truly becomes the backbone of this economy. It cannot just be wishful thinking when we are not making the right investments in those areas. But again, accountability purpose, let us know who and what resources are financing the movement of these products.
Shamima, thank you. Ladies, thank you for making the time this morning to help us look at all these topical issues carried in the newspapers. I've been doing this with Shamima Muslim, member of the Citizens Coalition. She is a development communications specialist, and Akosia Hansen, artistic activist, writer and creator of graphic novel series. Ladies, thank you so much for making the time once again. We'll make a date later, and then we'll have more conversations on topical issues. Have a wonderful weekend as well. We're looking forward to more chats on the breakfast show. There's a confidentiality in relationships and marriage topic that we should look forward to. There's a concert coming up called the Splendor Concert. We'll look to understand what that means. And talent, PJ and Juma will be at the breakfast table